Get ready to uncover groundbreaking ideas, discover the hidden challenges, and explore the untapped potential of marketing in the digital age. This is Fair Play with Arun Kumar, the podcast that takes you on a journey into the impact of data and technology in marketing. Here's Arun.
I'm back with Doug Zarkin, the author of the book, Moving Your Brand Out of the Friend Zone, an award-winning marketer who's been a CMO at Avon, Victoria's Secret Pink, and Pearl Vision. He's currently the Chief Brand Officer of Good Feet Holdings. So Doug, someone with your experience, you've had experience on both the agency and the brand side, what advice do you have for getting the right balance when defining target audiences? Agencies often get deep in the weeds, analyzing data, and we end up creating very narrow or very broad audience segments. But they don't always align well with the brand's business needs or product usage. So how do you recommend that we ensure the audience definition aligns to business objectives without doing a detailed data analysis that may miss the bigger picture? And what approach do you find works well for aligning the target audience definition to actionable media plans?
It's a great question. You can't ignore the opportunities that segmentations and archetypes can provide you, both from a targeting perspective as well as influencing the stimulus. But to me, it's trying to find the connective tissue between all of them. You can get extremely focused in your digital media platform, but digital media is only part of the puzzle. You know, it's sort of like, are you a digital marketer or are you a brand marketer? I think that question or that delineation deserves to be parked at the intersection of dumb and stupid, because you've got to be both in order to be successful. To me, there are certain messages that resonate stronger with certain audiences. You've got to size the prize. You can always slice. If you're trying to, if you have a product that is resonating with females, is it females? Is it females of an age set? Is it females of a mindset? Is it females of an age set and a mindset who are blonde hair, green eyes, between 5'2" and 5'5"? You start to slice and dice it, and then your return on investment becomes really, really sketchy. So I think there is no one size fits all answer to it. It depends on where your business is in its life cycle. Certainly, if you are a mature brand and you've achieved scale and it's about unlocking growth, segmentation can really help you do it. If you are a challenger brand or an emerging brand, you want to identify where the white space is in terms of need state. That to me is the beginning and most important part of your segmentation. Need state will allow you to be a niche, and niche is not a bad thing. Niche doesn't mean small. Niche means opportunity. And how do you then take that opportunity and run with it? You can carve a bigger niche by creating a larger need state. Some people, nobody knew that they needed a camera inside their phone until Apple launched the iPhone. And then everyone was like, oh my God, you're right, I need this. They created a niche. That niche got bigger and bigger, and now it's the standard bearer. You can do that with brands. But you got to be careful, especially if in the initial stages of growth, that you don't go too niche, or else you run the risk of driving yourself crazy with all these little itty bitty things, none of which you're doing at a material scale.
In your book, you talk about how you move on from the friend zone and how you get your brand to get a deeper relationship. My question is really, how do you first of all get into the friend zone? Because they're what we've been talking about, there's this excessive focus on just getting performance out. And I feel like, at least in certain places, the art of trying to build a relationship has sort of been pushed by the wayside. But how do I first get into the friend zone before I aspire to get out of it?
So that's part of the challenge, is that you find yourself in the friend zone when you start to realize that your consumer isn't coming back with the velocity that you anticipated, that you overshot your landing when it comes to sales forecasts. When you start seeing your customers go to your competition, that's when you realize that within the passion and trust, you are kind of somewhere in the middle. And unfortunately, it's not a place that you want to be. It's a place you find yourself in. It's sort of like you don't want to be overweight. You find yourself overweight. And then you have to look back and say, what are the steps that I took in my choices that led to that? When you are in the friend zone, the most important thing is to have the humility to recognize that you're there. And then you have to start working on things like your brand value equation. If I'm not delivering a premium experience, but I'm charging a premium price, then my brand value equation isn't positive or overly positive. That may mean you need to work on what you're doing in your experience sector, or you may think about dropping prices. You may realize that you have absolutely no aftercare program. So you essentially fire your consumer after you sell them something. They're going to go to somebody else because they don't necessarily remember, they don't have a great emotional stickiness to your brand. There are a number of steps that I talk about in the book about how you can begin to move out of the friend zone. But finding yourself in the friend zone is a harsh reality that I think sneaks up on a lot of people.
And so when you're in the friend zone, what's the role that something like a customer relationship management program plays? And the reason why I asked that question is because today a lot of the focus on CRM programs is linking it back into media so that you're able to identify people better. I was just hoping to get your perspective on, do you think loyalty programs and CRM programs have actually matured and evolved to stay relevant, or have they just become mechanisms by which media becomes smarter?
So I think a CRM, a customer relationship management program, is an incredible way to move your brand out of the friend zone. The challenge is in how you use it. Do you use it for good or do you use it for evil? For good is you're offering them additional value, additional services. You're providing them information about what they have purchased from you that can help them take fuller advantage of it. The bad is when you're sending way too many emails or way too many text messages and all you're doing is offering them deals and discounts. So much like any tool in the marketer's toolbox or the brand builder's toolbox, it depends on how you use it. But I do think it's incredibly valuable as an opportunity to show, not tell, that you care. I care about you is a statement. Showing you care is an action, and actions speak louder than words.
Everyone is talking about AI. And as is the norm in our industry, people have struck up partnerships. People have talked up the capabilities of AI and LLMs. People have talked about how there'll be more efficiencies, we'll need fewer people, etc., etc. What's your own take on this? Which is, this is a huge area, but how does AI impact the ability of a marketer to build that deeper relationship with a consumer? And there's of course the good and the bad, but do you see people really focused on the good? Because the headlines seem to suggest a lot of focus on costs.
I think the backroom chatter is on the good. I'm going to stand in front of a bank of microphones and cameras is on the bad. It's almost like an infrastructure bill that gets presented at Congress. It's always about, this is a priority. What's it going to do for my city? And then you go into the chambers and you talk to representatives and congressmen, and it's like, wow, this could really make a difference. It could save 10 minutes off my constituents' commute. 10 minutes times 5 days a week times 52 weeks a year. It's a lot of time. AI, I think, much like any tool, can be used for good or used for evil. It's less to me about cost and it's more about opportunity. We as human beings are inherently flawed. We're flawed in that we don't always do the right thing, even though maybe we want to. AI offers you the opportunity in its simplest form. Let's take like ChatGPT. If you are writing an email where you're frustrated, either at somebody internally or even a consumer, you can write a draft of an email and then put it into ChatGPT with a couple of prompts and instructions and get something that is a much more polished presentation of your thoughts, keeping your thoughts, that you may not have thought of. And it can save you. It could save you a lot of time. It could save you hurt feelings. It could lead to stronger results. I can draw the correlation depending on the issue. The danger is that if you use it blindly. So let's take customer service, which is one of the areas where AI is being used a lot. If I don't feed it the right information, I could have a customer who felt discriminated against for religious reasons, racial reasons. And if the automated response is, thank you for your concern, we're deeply sorry that you are unhappy with our service, we'll work to improve it. The consumer is now really upset that you don't give a shit. So you have to be very careful not to blindly trust anything that's automated. Even algorithms in media. I mean, how many times have we sat in rooms with our media agencies and they're like, well, the algorithm's spitting this out. It's like, well, the algorithm is only as good as the inputs that you're putting into the algorithm. So what are you putting into the algorithm? Oh, okay.
One of the areas where AI is expected to have an impact, again, I don't know whether it's from a good sense or from a bad sense, is the whole space of how you design creative messaging. And there's been a feeling, at least in the agency side of the business, that for a long time, we focused a lot on media optimization, tactic optimization, lower cost of delivery, and we've not really focused on the messaging itself. That we would have 10 audiences and we would show all those 10 audiences the same message and hope that they would react differently to the same message. So do you see anything that's taking place in the creative space that gives you confidence that people are willing to tell different stories about their brands and make an attempt to have a deeper connect? Or do you still see media being the driver of many of these tactics?
I think if the tactic is done right, you shouldn't be able to tell what the driver is. You know, media is a connection point, nothing more, nothing less. It's an access point. It's an access point into the life of a consumer. And you, as a marketer, have to determine whether or not that connection point is an opportunity to say something to someone in a slightly different way. I do think there is some good out there. I think, like anything, good isn't as sexy to write about as bad. You know, if you look at, go back 6 months ago or 8 months ago to the whole Bud Light fiasco, the idea behind what they were trying to do was a noble one. The execution was horrific because it was a token. It wasn't a commitment. Like I talk about it in the book. One of the things that I had a chance to work on very early in my career was an LGBTQ initiative for Bacardi, who had done some research and found out that within that community, it was a preferred spirit. And as opposed to just, token stuff, we created a party planner that was, a local bar guide. And this was back through, when newspapers were the predominant source of communication for liquor and spirits. And what we used as a percentage of sales from every one of those events, those parties, went into LGBTQ education. Like, that was cool. That said more than just, hey, we're sponsoring a party. It brought it full circle. It allowed us to do some great work and continue to drive sales within that community. But we did more than that. We gave back to the community. And I think the challenge with Bud Light or other examples that we know about in the marketplace is when it looks like a one-trick pony, when it looks like a token, and it doesn't look like a commitment.
Yep, and then that leads questions about its authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, and the consumer, unfortunately, is very unforgiving when it comes to feeling like they're being taken for a ride. And that's something that I think we have to be careful of as marketers, to be careful that we're not drinking too much of our own drink, and have to be able to look at it from the alternative point of view and say, okay, are we really doing a good job in making that commitment through our actions, not our words?
Let me shift to a very selfish question, which is, having been on the agency side all my career, one of the things which I'm very interested in is, what do you want your agency partners or the agency business in general to evolve into in order to best support the marketing community?
So I'll take it a step higher. What role can it play in helping support brands and brand growth? So the first thing is recognizing that when you are brought onto a business, you are brought on as an extension of the marketing team and that marketing leader. So there is an expectation that the commitment to the brand, to the business is there. Now, the quid pro quo is the financial compensation has to be there as well. You buy a bottle of wine for $2.50, it's going to taste a certain way. You buy a bottle of wine for $22.50, it hopefully tastes a heck of a lot better. And I think brand leaders have to recognize that you do get what you pay for in many respects. However, one of the things where I think the agency business continues to struggle is being anticipatory. Like you mentioned earlier in our conversation, you get a brief, right? Well, what about influencing the brief? What about coming to your partner with ideas and thoughts, insights, first party observations? It's amazing how many agencies I've worked with where I've actually had to say, have you actually gone to our store and bought something? Have you actually experienced our brand? And you get that awkward cricket. And I'm like, listen, don't answer, just do it. I had an experience recently where in my new role, which I've been in for a couple of months, our CEO had an idea the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, something that one of our brands was doing relative to Cyber Monday, and asked me to put him in touch with our one of our agency partners. And again, it was like 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, and sent an email out to everybody from our agency partner saying, listen, I've got an idea. Can I get somebody on the phone really quick? Just want to talk about it and see if there's merit. Ghosted. And they were closed on Thursday. And it wasn't until I had sent the email to the CEO of that agency on Friday saying, hey, listen, our CEO, I haven't heard anything. Our CEO hasn't heard anything. I ended up using a personal connection that I had and ended up getting it done myself. Now I'm with the brand 6 weeks. They've been with the brand a few years. And the fact that connective tissue DNA isn't there, to me, is a great example of where they're just not the right partner.
Yep, that is quite weird. Normally, one of the things I've noticed is that these are the kind of opportunities I think personally that agencies should sort of jump at, because it's the opportunity to create great work. Usually these are the kinds of circumstances when you jump up and you say, hey, I've got a time crunch. This is when my best thinking needs to come together. And I've got a brief from a CEO who wants to do something, as opposed to just...
I would disagree with you. I mean, look, I want to be careful. And it is not you're on 24/7, 365. And we all have work and life balances. And I wish I was better at finding the balance myself. I actually can't go to sleep if I have unread emails. I just can't. I'm just not wired that way. Some people are, I'm not. But I think there's a measured approach. If you're sending a bulk email to 10 members of the team, the fact that come on, everybody has their smart device with them. You're telling me that nobody checked the email? It just, to me, is indicative of you just don't have the right partners. When that separation between, okay, I'm not on the clock. Okay.
Cool. On that note, as a marketer, what are the 3 things that you would leave behind for people to consider doing in 2024?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the first thing is to reground themselves in what a brand is. Secondly, reground themselves in the role of marketing. Third, embrace the notion that being a brand that is liked is not a secure place to be. You need to be a brand that is loved, or you are always readily susceptible to competitive threat. The last thing I would say, I'm going to give you 4. 2024 is going to be a hot mess with the political climate, not because so much of the national election, but because of all the local propositions and local issues that dominate the landscape. Now is the time to really get scrappy and think through your strategy for how you're going to put your brand on the brain of a consumer.
Thank you so much, Doug, for your time.
No, thanks for talking about the book, which is available on Kindle and paperback at Amazon or at dougzarkin.com.
Yep, absolutely. I would second that, and I would say it's definitely something that folks should pick up and have a read through if you haven't already done so. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
And that will do it for this episode. If you like the show, please take a moment to subscribe so you'll get notified when I release new episodes. Also, if you have a moment, I'd love it if you left us a review so that other folks like yourself can learn about the show. And I'll see you next time.
This has been Fair Play with Arun Kumar. If you want to uncover the keys to using data wisely and fairly in an ever-changing world, go to arunkumar.com for more insights and resources. Fair Play is a production of Forbes Books.